Welcome everybody, this is World Satsanga on the 24th of September 2025 in conjunction with Kevin Moore and the Kevin Moore Show. And again, as normal, I encourage you to visit his YouTube channel, the Kevin Moore Show, where you can see all the different episodes of, they call us channelers, and those individuals who are researching into or connecting with the greater reality in their own right, in their own way, with their own level of accuracy and their own level of prominence as it happens. So do go and see Kevin Moore's channel, YouTube channel, The Kevin Moore Show. So this particular lecture is about viruses, and it's quite an interesting lecture because there's been a lot about viruses. You know, in the past few years we've had COVID, and we've had there's lots of people who haven't had their children vaccinated for things like measles, mumps and rubella, or smallpox or chickenpox, or any other bits and pieces that are out there that affect the human body, and it's causing all sorts of problems now because there's been lots of rhetoric about we don't need to be vaccinated, but in essence there is a need to be vaccinated because those who don't need to be vaccinated are generally a higher frequency, and I'll explain that what that means. We are in the gross physical. Now, you can understand from the previous two lectures in July and August, in terms of what I've described about who and what we are. We've described the environment from a multiversal perspective, and I've described how we incarnate into the human body and how the human body is created. But in essence, we are focused on the first three frequencies of the multiverse, which happens to be the first three frequencies of the physical universe as well, and therefore the gross physical. And the issue is that when we're in the gross physical, we're affected by anything that is existing in the gross physical or is manifest in the gross physical. And that can be genetic dysfunction, genetic errors being created. It can be bacteria, viruses, other forms of disease as well, including how our thought processes or a mental state of being can affect our physicality as well. But viruses are particularly of interest because they invade the cellular structure of our body. Now, they invade the cellular structure of our body and hide there and aren't detected, and therefore can wreak havoc as a function of not being detected by the body until it's probably too late. But what causes that potential? Well, as a gross physical form, the human body is quite dense. And this means that anything else that's got density or is slightly higher in frequency can move through it, but still attach to it. So think of the human body like a fishing net. And if we have a really closely woven fishing net, then big fish, medium-sized fish, small fish, and even things like krill can get stuck in this net. Specifically, it's a very fine net where you can catch krill. It's stuck in the net, so it can't pass through. So what we see is the potential for this fine net catching everything. So the density is equal to a very fine fishing net. If we increase the frequency of the human form, then the density or the weave of the fishing net becomes wider and wider. And so we get that the krill move through, and smaller fish like fry can also move through the holes in the net. And if we had a wider fishing net, then we have smaller fish and medium-sized fish can also move through until we have things like tuna or large fish like cod, for example, can't move through the fishing net. So we let small fish go and we catch big fish. And this is the same with the human form. If we increase the frequency of the human form by things like meditation, detachment from the vagaries of materialism, by not being addicted to wealth or status or position or clothes or houses or money or how we look, then we place ourselves in a state of being of service in an appropriate way. We start to increase our frequencies because we are in the physical but not of the physical. And if we increase our frequencies, it's equal to increasing the weave of the fishing net. So we get to the point where if we're a higher frequency, then viruses can't invade us because they pass through us. There's nothing for them to stick through. Like with the fishing net, it's so fine that krill gets stuck. That's a good example for how viruses can get stuck to us and then can start to invade our cellular structure. Then if that fishing net is much significantly wider, and in the case of the human body, the frequencies are higher, so the density of the body is significantly reduced. It's more diffuse. Then viruses can't stick to us because they pass straight through us. So if we're a higher frequency individual, we don't get ill because we don't get bacteria sticking to us. We don't have genetic dysfunctions. We don't have viruses invading our body and moving into the cellular structure because we're a higher frequency. So if you consider higher frequency entities that are still incarnate but a bit of a higher frequency that visit the earth, and they say, oh, we lived to 1,000 years or 2,000 of your years, that's because they're not affected by disease, genetic dysfunction, or viruses or bacteria, because they're a higher frequency. And these things on the gross physical level can't pervade them, invade them, or damage them. And this is why we start to see yogis and legends of yogis living hundreds of years, because not only do they put themselves into meditative stasis, because they're also of a higher frequency, and the body doesn't degrade because it's not being attacked by viruses or disease or mentally induced physical dysfunction that creates the possibility of the body reacting to the gross physical in a negative way. So, from that perspective, it's simple. The higher the frequency are, the healthier you're going to be, the longer your body's going to exist for, should you decide to live long enough. You might want to leave. Once you're a higher frequency, you start to understand who and what you are, and the desire to stay here as long as possible starts to disappear, because there's no fear of the death or the demise of the human form, because the human form is not what we are. It's simply a motor car or a vehicle that we're using to navigate around the the physical environment that we're in. So the trick is to be healthy, increase your frequencies. Do the chakra opening exercises every day. Eat good, high energy foods such as raw vegetables, root vegetables. Avoid animals that have been killed in stressful situations. Eating animals that have died and from a natural death, mutton for example, is okay, because the animal has lived a good life and therefore there's no low frequency energy associated with it. But being a vegetarian is optimal, because if you eat raw foods, for example, raw vegetables, raw fruits, you've got all the energy there from the earth within them, and that helps to raise your frequencies as well. So eat in a concerning or discerning way. Do your chakra opening exercises. Meditate every day. Think high frequency thoughts. Don't think ill of anybody. Don't get involved with any talk about people. Don't go in and become involved with any discussions that requires collaboration or corroboration. Don't get involved in conspiracy theories. Don't talk negatively about people. Okay. Think the good about people all the time. Think high frequency thoughts. Think how you can help people in a way that's not intrusive in their lives. Meditate again. Meditate. Lift your frequencies through meditation by detaching yourself from the physical environment, by not being part of it, but being within it. And that helps. And therefore your frequencies will increase. The density of your body reduces, because your body's a higher frequency, well, the gross physical aspect of it is anyway. And therefore those diseases, bacteria and viruses that would normally attach to you won't attach to you, because your fishing net, the structure of your body, is a larger weave, and they pass through. So that's how higher frequency people aren't affected by viruses, bacteria, or disease or genetic dysfunction. Let's go on to the questions and answers. Welcome to this supplementary lecture for September's World Satsanga, which is taking the place of the Q&A because I'm on sabbatical. What I'd like to just discuss is this concept of aliens and all of the different fear factors that have been thrown around the world in certain UFO communities. I've had lots of emails, dialogues, communications, discussions, thought processes, fears from different people around the world over the past couple of years. And one of the things that people are concerned about is the communication that governments have been having with different, let's say other incarnate entities or vehicles that are in other parts of the physical universe and the frequencies associated with it and the locations or the galaxies associated with it. And whether or not we're being controlled by various different types of alien incarnates, or whether there's different deals being done with different governments. My understanding is that there is a fear of certain body types, certain vehicle form factors, and those are specifically the arachnoid or insectoid type of body types, the exoskeletons, or those crustaceans that we have in the sea as well, things like lobsters, things like crabs, things like shrimps, etc. Those sort of body types have exoskeletons, and so they fall into the same genre, so to speak, as the insectoid or the arachnoid type of form factors. Now, these types of body types are in general disliked or feared by an awful lot of people, without sense, basically. It's just simply a form of preference, and that's because their skeletons are on the outside rather than the inside, such as ours. Now, turn it the other way around. Those incarnate souls who have incarnated in a body type that's got an exoskeleton might find our squishy bodies equally as abhorrent. So we have to think of it in terms of two ways. One is one person's should we say honey is another person's poison, and another person's poison is another person's honey. So think of it in terms of it, irrespective of the body type, there should be no fear, and that includes reptilian body types as well, because there's a lot of different reptilian body types around the galaxy and the galaxies that are being used for us as smaller aspects or smaller volumes of sentience from our true energetic self, what we call the soul, to incarnate into in different environments that give us different evolutionary possibilities. So all these different body types we shouldn't be afraid of. There's a lot of fear about, all the reptiles, the anarchy, the anarchy are controlling us. They control royal families. They control different governments. They control this. They control that. They control the other. It's nonsense, basically. There are different levels of evolution clearly associated with different incarnate vehicles that we as souls or smaller aspects of the volumes of sentience that's projected down from our true energetic self can incarnate into. That's clear. But that doesn't give us the need to fear them. They're simply body types. And they're simply us as different souls have incarnated into at some point in our evolution as well. So from that perspective, we shouldn't fear the body type, and we shouldn't consider that there are different form factors that are trying to control us. Those incarnate vehicles or body types that haven't evolved to a level where they are capable of moving from one vastly far distant location with its geo-universally or whether it's frequentially, will stay where they are generally, or in their particular location or their locale. They're not going to be in a situation where they'll come across the galaxy and try to invade us, because they will have evolved to a higher level of consciousness, higher level of sentience while they're incarnate, and therefore will have had a larger or a greater level of communicative bandwidth, and therefore they'll know who and what they are. They'll know that we're all the same. We're all part of the same sentience eventually. We're all part of the source, because our true energetic selves have been individualized from source, and what we call a soul is individualized from the true energetic self. So we're all part of the same sentience, and they understand that. So what's the point in them trying to control us, or use us as slaves, or use the human body as a food source? It's complete nonsense. It's just trying to confuse people. It's trying to control people by fear. Those entities, those incarnate entities at different frequential levels that are beyond the gross physical, the first three frequencies that create the gross physical, and those that are beyond the gross physical totally, and therefore remain energetic, or clearly don't use any form of, shall we say, physical form of energy. By physical form I mean those 12 frequencies that create the physical universe, to experience this particular location or this particular universe, will not be of a lower level of sentience, or not a lower level of evolution. They will just come here and they'll observe. Sometimes they may communicate with other entities. Sometimes they will give information. But in general, they're not going to make any deals with any governments. Why would they create an imbalance? If they've travelled here, if they've projected themselves here, if they've interacted here, it's to try to help us move on, to try to help us understand ourselves better, and not create confusion or create dominance or be a dominant factor in any way. They'll be here to help because they're a higher level of sentience, and they're a higher level of evolution, and they've incarnated into a body type, a vehicle that is predominantly manifest on a higher frequency, and therefore they've got a higher level of communicative bandwidth, which means they retain a level of memory or knowledge of who and what they are, and so they understand why they are entering into the physical universe, to enable them to experience, learn and evolve. And in doing so, they will want others to experience, learn and evolve as well, because as we all evolve, so does Source. And as we all evolve, we come closer to being able to recommune with Source. And when we all recommune with Source, the Source is able to evolve and therefore detach its sentience from the current volume of structured space and move on to the next level. So we start the next level of evolutionary cycle again. So we're all in it together. We're all helping each other because we're all part of Source. So the moment we start to recognize this, we will start to become more mature significantly. The more we start to work collectively, giving up to some level our individualized free will for the benefit of the collective, then we will mature significantly. We won't need to be controlled by any other entities. They wouldn't want to control us because they know who we are and what we are, and who they are and what they are, and that we're all together. We're all one. We're all one volume of sentience, but we're individualized from that volume of sentience, albeit temporarily on a long-term scale. So the idea of us being managed or controlled or isolated or imprisoned or told we can't, we're stuck in this incarnation loop because it's a function of these entities that are trying to control us, and they've got certain form factors, is basically just fearmongering. It's scaremongering. It's building upon the fears of those to try to control you themselves. So those who say this are using it to control you, not the entities themselves. So try to consider that any entity, whether we call it an alien, whether we call it a different incarnate vehicle, whether we call it a different form factor or body type, whether it's from the gross physical, or whether it's basically of a higher level of frequency, and therefore in the higher frequencies, such as the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, even up to the 12th frequency, they are simply us. They're not anything else, because we've incarnated, and we do incarnate in these frequencies ourselves, in these body types ourselves. So if they come here, and they do come here, to observe how we are managing to deal with individualized free will in these lower frequencies that we call the gross physical, then they're simply going to be here to observe, and maybe they will give us a little bit of a head start. Maybe we do at times get access to various different aspects of technology. Maybe we do at times with that technology get a little bit of a head start with certain directions of technology. But think of it this way. Most of this technology is so far ahead of us, it's like somebody from the 16th or 17th century trying to understand how a computer works, when it's all integrated into one printed circuit board or one microprocessor and compacted. No chance, absolutely no chance. So they give us direction through ideas. They deal with those individuals who incarnate at a slightly higher frequential level, who are open to high level concepts, and they plant seeds and ideas in their consciousness, in their sentience, such as different technologies. I mean, look at television, look at telecommunications. Edison, Baird, and Marconi all together, and even Tesla, all together had the knowledge instantaneously, spontaneously, all together, about how to do wireless communication, how to do wireless pictures, television, radio. It was all there. There's all sorts of different fail-safes around the world. People are given these ideas because they're open to receive these ideas. They choose to do their incarnation where they're going to be of service by taking the ideas and bringing them into the physical, into fruition. We sometimes call them inventors, but really they're just people who are incarnate, but they're a different level of, so we say, evolution. They're more open to ideas, and therefore they're not, shall I say, constrained by convention. And therefore that's the way in which some of these other entities give us the opportunity to become more advanced in certain technologies than others. I find it really interesting that computing power, telecommunications, display technologies have increased significantly in the last 20 years, even 30 years. But look how other things haven't. We're still stuck on the Earth using rockets to get into space. Why haven't we adopted into using other methods? Teleportation, reusable transportation systems such as Burt Rutan and Richard Branson have tried to adopt and tried to use. No, we're still going back in using rocket technology. It's low-level technology in reality. The only time we're going to be allowed to leave the planet or interact with other entities one-on-one, as if they're like our neighbours, is when we are mature enough to do so. And we are not thinking of ourselves, we're thinking of the collective. When we start to think collectively rather than fully individually, when we use our individualised free will to think collectively rather than individually, we will start to mature rapidly. When we do that, we'll then start to connect with these other body types that we incarnate into ourselves outside of this particular incarnation, and all the different energetic versions, which are still physical, but they're a higher frequency, or those entities that don't use any form of physicality, irrespective of the frequency, to communicate or enter into the gross physical, then that will be a function of our maturity. Okay, so I hope this helps in understanding little bit about aliens and about communication. They're not going to, side with the Americans or the Russians or the Chinese or the Japanese or the Canadians or the British or the Germans. They will be communicating by giving us concepts, and giving us the ideas, giving us the ways in which we can start to expand ourselves, broaden our horizons, become more capable of adopting and working with higher concepts. Just look at a few films that are around at the moment, showing that we're no longer expecting alien entities to be in gross physical bodies. They may be just purely energetic. There's a couple of items of food for thought for you. But don't be afraid of these different body types. Be more concerned about who is creating the fear, and then try to understand it's a way of confusing people, and it's a way of creating fear within the population by human beings, not by other entities that have travelled across the galaxy or through the frequencies to get to us and observe us and communicate with us and help us. Welcome to this meditation in September, and we're going to repeat the basic principle of what we did in August, in so much as we're going to focus on using the chakra opening exercises as a vehicle to making us a higher frequency, and therefore impervious to the vagaries of viruses and bacteria and other genetic dysfunctions that can occur when we're a lower frequency. So basically we're going to do the chakra opening exercises as a means of maintaining our higher frequency. The chakra opening exercises are copyright Guy Stephen Needler, Beyond the Source, 2012. The chakra opening exercises are a supplementary personal exercise one can achieve to assist one's increase in frequency and gain the functionality associated with that increase in frequency from a psycho-spiritual perspective. There are 7 chakras associated with the gross physical and spirituo-physical aspect of the human form. The first 3, the gross physical, are the root or base chakra, the sacral chakra, the solar chakra, with the spirituo-physical aspects being the 4th or heart chakra, the throat chakra, the spiritual or third eye chakra, and the crown chakra. The first chakra is the root chakra or base chakra. The second chakra is the sacral chakra. The third chakra is the solar chakra. The fourth chakra is the heart chakra. The fifth chakra is the throat chakra. The sixth chakra is the spiritual or third eye chakra. And the seventh chakra is the crown chakra. Each of the chakras is a progression frequentially from the first, the lowest of the frequencies being associated with the base or root chakra, and the highest of the frequencies being associated with the crown chakra. The first chakra, the base or root chakra, and the seventh chakra, the crown chakra, are vertically opposed chakras and only have one chakra associated with them. The second chakra, which is the sacral, through to the sixth chakra, the spiritual or third eye, have a front and rear aspect, which are associated with psycho-spiritual functions. The psycho-spiritual functions are that the front chakras are our intention and the rear chakras are our action, and as such, whichever we do with the front chakras is repeated automatically with the rear chakras. What this means for this exercise is that we do not need to worry about the rear chakras. We just need to work with the front chakras. A chakra is generally a cone-shaped item with a small diameter attached to the human form and a larger diameter projected away from the human form. To increase the amount of energy or frequency pulled in by the chakra, one needs to extend that chakra and rotate it clockwise. If one rotates a chakra anti-clockwise, one pushes energy out. So to pull energy in, it is of benefit to rotate the chakra clockwise. Extending the chakra to its maximum extension of, say, 12 inches or 300 millimeters, and then rotating it clockwise, effectively uses our intention to use that chakra to pull energy in, to pull frequency in, and elevate us to that level, allowing us to benefit from an increase in frequency and also to benefit from the potential functions, psychospiritual functions or metaphysical functions associated with that frequency level. To enable one to open the chakras, to pull in this extra energy, one can use two different methods of visualization. One is simply to visualize the chakra projecting from the human form, as if you are seeing out of your eyes, and the other is to use the mentally spoken word. The mentally spoken word is simply that you say in your mind's voice what you want the chakra to do. Some students find this beneficial rather than visualization. Both visualization and mentally spoken words create the same level of intention, and the chakra will respond anyway. If one has difficulty in visualizing extending chakras or rotating the chakras, one should use the mentally spoken words. Be aware though, if your intention is to rotate the chakras clockwise, but you visualize it anti-clockwise, you will still get the chakra to rotate clockwise, because it's the intention that counts and not any images that are projected in error. When considering clockwise, one can consider the visualization of using a clock. For the base or root chakra, one can consider a clock on the floor, and that the clockwise rotation is equal to observing the second hand rotate from the number 9 to the number 12 to the number 3 to the number 6 to the number 9 again, sweeping from left to right. This is seen as through your own eyes. When considering the second chakra through to the 6th, which is the sacral chakra through to the spiritual or third eye chakra, one can consider the clock being on the wall in front of you. And again, the clockwise rotation is assuming that a second hand is rotating from the number 9 to the number 12 to the number 3 to the number 6 and back to the number 9 again, sweeping from the left and to the right. The crown chakra can also be considered by having the clock on the ceiling above our heads, and again the second hand sweeps from left to right, from the number 9 to the number 12 to the number 3 to the number 6 and back to the number 9 again. When progressing with this exercise, one can achieve two types of posture. One can stand with knees slightly bent and the feet about shoulder width apart and the arms down by the side and the eyes closed, with the closed eye vision focused upon the area of the third eye, which is in between the two eyebrows and above the bridge of the nose. The third eye, although in a similar position to the spiritual or third eye chakra, is not the same thing. The second posture can be on a straight-backed chair, with the feet flat on the ground, the back straight, the hands palm uppermost on the upper thighs, where the upper legs meet the lower body, the eyes closed, and the closed eye vision focused on the area of the third or spiritual eye. Choose whichever of those postures you feel is best for you, standing or sitting. So let's open our chakras and gain the benefit from the differences in frequency. Now, when we move through these different frequencies, the human form will be elevated to these levels as well. And some people gain different physical responses. These physical responses are useful because they give us physical proof that we are moving through the frequencies. Sometimes the physical response is a tingling in the hands, temperature, pressure around the area of the third eye or around the periphery of the skull, or tingling or heat on top of the crown chakra. It can also be visualizations, shifts in colour in your third eye, the area of your third eye within your closed eye vision. Sometimes there is an emotional response as well. As we move up the frequencies with the chakras, just pay attention to the different types of feedback that you may be achieving. You may be going from one level of feedback to another. Tingling may increase or decrease or become finer. Temperature may change from hot to cold or cold to hot. And emotional responses may be different. Just note, as we move up the frequencies, how your body is responding. Some of you may get one of these. Some of you may get a number of these or all of these different responses. Those of you who don't get any response, this isn't a problem. It's just that sometimes one's physical form is already of a higher frequency, and therefore there is not the marked change in frequency and therefore physical response from the body. So, in the posture that you have chosen, visualize or use your mentally spoken words that your base or root chakra projects down towards the ground to 12 inches or 300 millimeters and then rotates clockwise in conjunction with this clock, this imaginary clock that's on the ground between your 2 feet. And this elevates us up to the first frequency level. Some of you may already have been receiving some of these bits of feedback, which, by the way, will also include tinnitus, ringing in ears. It could be in both ears or predominantly in the right ear. The visualization of the cone should be from the small diameter, being where the 2 legs meet the lower body, the area of the groin projecting down towards the ground 12 inches or 300 millimeters, and then rotating clockwise. Again, if your visualization is good, you can visualize this as if you're looking out of your eyes, your own physical eyes. If you have difficulty with visualization, or you simply want to make things simple, use the mentally spoken words of, I extend my base or root chakra from its point of origin to its maximum condition, and I rotate it clockwise. In mentally stating these words, and you can use these words throughout the range of chakras, the chakra will follow your intention, will extend to its maximum condition, and will rotate clockwise. So those of you who are good at visualization may also prefer to use the mentally spoken words instead. Let's move to the second level by visualizing the extension of our second or sacral chakra to its maximum extended condition of this 12 inches or 300 millimeters, and then visualize it rotating clockwise. Again, you can use your mentally spoken words of I extend my sacral or second chakra to its maximum condition and rotate it clockwise. And the chakra will follow those words because the words are your intention. Again, as you move up these frequencies, note the difference between the first and the second level. These, by the way, will always be repeated every time you come to these levels. They will also repeat themselves in reverse on the way down the frequencies. Let's extend and rotate the third chakra now, the solar chakra. The positions of the chakras, by the way, the sacral chakra is 3 inches or 75 millimeters below the navel. Its point of origin is therefore 3 inches below the navel, or 75 millimeters. The solar chakra is 3 inches or 75 millimeters above the navel. So visualize extending this chakra, the third chakra, the solar chakra, from its point of origin, 7.5 centimeters or 75 millimeters or 3 inches above the navel, out to its maximum condition of 12 inches or 300 millimeters, and visualize it rotating clockwise in conjunction again with this clock on the wall in front of you. The second hand rotates from left to right. Again, note how your body is responding to this difference in frequency and how your modality of feedback may change or swap from one modality to another. Let's go to the fourth level then now by using the heart chakra from its point of origin at the center of the front of the chest. The center of the front of the chest is the center of the sternum. Again, visualize it extending this 300 millimeters or 12 inches out in front of you and rotating clockwise, or use your mentally spoken word to achieve the same thing. Now we've achieved the fourth level and gained feedback from the fourth level and made a mental note of what this feedback is like in comparison to the other levels. We can move on to the fifth level by extending and rotating the throat chakra from its point of origin at the center of the front of the neck. So rotate it and extend it. It's always best to extend first and then rotate, by the way. Visualize extension from the center of the front of the neck to this maximum of 300 millimeters or 12 inches, and then visualize it rotating clockwise. Or use your mentally spoken words to achieve the same thing. And this brings us up to the fifth level. We can go to the sixth level by visualizing our sixth, which is our spiritual or third eye chakra, to extend from its point of origin at the center of the front of the forehead, in a similar location to the spiritual or third eye, which is in between the two eyebrows and above the bridge of the nose. I state again that the spiritual or third eye and the spiritual or third eye chakra are two completely different functions. They are two completely different energetic organs, so to speak. So visualize the extension of this sixth, this spiritual or third eye chakra from its point of origin to its maximum extension of 300 millimeters to 12 inches and rotate it clockwise. And again, you can use your mentally spoken words to achieve the same thing. Notice how you're feeling lighter. Sometimes you might be feeling a little bit light-headed, woozy. Tingling may be getting finer, temperature may be changing to an extreme. You may be experiencing more emotional content. You may be experiencing a different type of tinnitus. Or images or colours in your closed eye vision may also be changing. Let's go to the final level then, the 7th level, by using the 7th chakra, the crown chakra, and visualize it projecting up from its point of origin at the center of the top of the head. Up towards the ceiling to its maximum extension of 300 millimeters or 12 inches, and rotate it clockwise in conjunction with this imaginary clock which is on the ceiling above the head, with the chakra rotating in synchronization with the second hand that sweeps from left to right. Now we're on the 7th frequency level, a cumulative function of opening chakras 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Notice how your body is feeling lighter, feeling recharged already, and that you have a different perspective on your incarnate existence. You can stay at this level as long as you like, but we'll only be here for a few moments, because this is just an exercise to teach you how to open and close the chakras. People generally stay here for 5 or 10 minutes. We can go down to the 0 level, what I call the earth level, by subsequently stopping the rotation of each of the chakras and contracting them back into their own point of origin. We do this one by one. Again, we can visualize the chakras stopping their rotation and contracting them back into their point of origin. Or we can use the mentally spoken words. The mentally spoken words in this instance are as follows. I stop the rotation of my chakra, in this instance my 7th chakra or my crown chakra, and contract it back into its point of origin. The chakra will stop rotating and will contract down to its normal size, its normal functional size, and you will drop down the frequencies from the 7th frequency to the 6th frequency associated with the next chakra that is open, which is the 6th, the spiritual or third eye chakra. So let's move down to the 6th level then by visualizing the 7th chakra, the crown chakra, stopping its rotation and contracting itself back into its point of origin at the center of the top of the head, or using our mentally spoken words to stop our crown chakra from rotating and contracting back into its point of origin. Use the words, I stop my crown chakra from rotating and I contract it back into its point of origin. You can use these words or you can use your own words. Either is fine. Notice how we've gone from the 7th frequency back to the 6th frequency, and it is a repeat of what we experienced on the 6th frequency going up the frequencies. What we experienced on each of the different levels, we will experience on the way down. Now we're on the 6th frequency. We can go to the 5th frequency by visualizing our 6th, our spiritual or third eye chakra, stopping its rotation and contracting back into its point of origin at the center of the front of the forehead. Again, we can use our mentally spoken words if we desire to do so. Mentally spoken words may be, I stop the rotation of my spiritual or third eye chakra and contract it back into its point of origin. And the chakra will follow that intention and you'll drop down to the 5th frequency level. Having achieved this, we are now on the 5th frequency level and looking to move down to the 4th frequency level. Again, we move down to the 4th frequency level by visualizing the stopping of the rotation of the 5th or throat chakra and contracting it back into its point of origin at the center of the front of the throat. Again, you can use your mentally spoken words to achieve the same thing. Changing the chakra to its normal status drops down to the 4th frequency. Now we're on the 4th frequency, we can move to the 3rd frequency by visualizing the stopping of the rotation of the 4th or heart chakra and contracting it back into its point of origin at the center of the front of the chest, in the area of the sternum. Again, you can use your mentally spoken words to achieve this. And in doing so, the chakra will stop rotating, contract back into its normal function within its point of origin, and allow us to move down, to drop down the frequencies to the 3rd frequency. We are now on the 3rd frequency level and can move down to the 2nd frequency level by visualizing our 3rd or solar chakra from rotating and contracting back into its point of origin 3 inches or 75 millimeters or 7.5 centimeters above the navel. Again, you can use your mentally spoken words to stop the rotation and to contract that chakra back into its point of origin, allowing us to drop down the frequencies to the 2nd level. Now we're on the 2nd level, we can move down to the 1st level by again using our visualization to stop the rotation of the 2nd or sacral chakra and contract it back into its point of origin 3 inches or 75 millimeters or 7.5 centimeters below the navel. Again, you can use your mentally spoken words to achieve the same thing. Finally, now we're on the 1st level, we can come back to the earth level by visualizing the stopping of the rotation of the base or root chakra, contracting it back into its point of origin where the 2 legs meet the lower body, the area of the groin, or by using your mentally spoken words to achieve the same thing. And this brings us down to the normal level of frequency that we operate on every day. I suggest that once you've done this exercise, you very slowly come back into the room. You take a drink of water, if you have one with you, or very slowly get up and walk to the kitchen for a drink of water, because this will help to ground you. That's the end of the chakra opening exercises, and it is something that you can practice on a daily basis or twice a day. Some people practice these exercises 2 or 3 times a day. It's up to the individual, but clearly the more times you practice it, the more beneficial that it is for you. I hope that you enjoyed these exercises, and I'm looking forward to you using the exercises to achieve a higher level of status frequentially within your gross physical environment. Namaste. So, thank you for participating in the meditation in September, and also for working on opening your chakras by using the chakra opening exercises and maintaining your higher frequency. And look forward to working with you again in October. Namaste. Did you see the aliens in Crete?